Soy Starboy Nano Lopez. Vengo de España, pero Polonia es mi segundo hogar y estoy muy feliz de ser parte de Kinguin PTW y tener la oportunidad de trabajar con el tremendo talento que hay aquí. Aunque comencé a luchar bastante tarde en mi vida, el wrestling ha sido parte de mi vida. Bueno, ha sido mi vida durante más de 20 años. He tenido la suerte de poder presenciar muchos grandes en acción mientras viajaba para adquirir experiencia. Muchos lugares mágicos, muchos recuerdos hermosos. Pero tío, debo decirlo, Kinguin PTW tiene algo especial, algo único aquí. Gané el Battle Royale en el show Revolution y eso me dio la oportunidad de estar en el evento principal contra Nitro en el show Underground. Dos momentos importantes en mi carrera, dos victorias muy importantes. Pero ahora la historia es completamente diferente. Matt Sydal es una leyenda. Es un talento de clase mundial y uno de mis ídolos personales. Subirse al ring con él es más que un sueño hecho realidad. Será un honor y un privilegio darle la bienvenida a Polonia. Lo daré absolutamente todo. Y una cosa os puedo prometer. Va a ser genial para él, para mí y para vosotros, los fans.
Good morning, everyone. Hope everyone got their breakfast ready. Hope you got your cup of coffee, because today, once again, on International 4th edition of mWo Super Saturday. Let's start the show. What's happening, everyone? This is your host, Mike Thunder. Welcome you once again to another special edition of Mike World Order's Super Saturday, live at the mWo Arena. Hope everyone's having a good start to their day. I think you're going to be in for a real treat with today's guest. Thank God for having Fight TV. Oh my gosh. Anyone who has Fight TV and the Fight Plus app, you guys need to check out Primetime Wrestling and their Underground show, because that's how I was able to see this talent. And they always say funny things happen in threes. I was watching him, and then I was looking on my Instagram, and it showed an advertisement for Primetime Wrestling, and it showed him doing one of his spots on the commercial. And then I scrolled down some more, and I saw his actual profile. So maybe it was happenstance, maybe it was a coincidence, I don't know. But I felt like I needed to get this guy on the show. Originally from Spain, making his way all the way to Poland. He's one of the trainers for Primetime Wrestling. And he recently, on an episode of PTW Underground, he had a match against AEW's own Matt Sydal, which we'll be talking about later on in the show too. His style, I would say, a little bit of lucha, a little bit of groundwork. You can tell that he's been doing that European catch-as-catch-can style as well. I would like to refer to him as kind of like a hybrid lucha wrestler, and I love that. Any hybrid wrestler, I have a lot of respect for, because that means you have a within means of wanting to expand how you want to, learn your craft. You don't want to stick with one, because the one thing that I've learned from listening to different wrestlers and even musicians, you have to learn to stay relevant. And this guy, I give him maybe 2 or 3 years. Do not be surprised if we see this man on American soil killing it, because I could see it happening, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to bring him on my World Order. So, international bookers, if you're out there, reach out to this man, give him a chance. Before we bring him on, I would like to play a highlight video of our upcoming guests from Spain to Poland. You don't have to look up to the stars for you to see this man, Starboy, Nano Lopez.
Song on so many different dials, cause I got more hits than a disciplined child. So when they see me, everybody baracks. Man, I'm like a young gun, fully barack. I cry teardrops over the massive attack. I only make hits like I work with a racket and back. Look at my jacket and hat, so down berserk, so down to earth. I'm bringing gravity back, adopted by the major. I want my family back. People work hard just to get all their salary tax. Look, I'm just a writer from the ghetto like Mallory Black. Man, where the hell's all the sanity at? Damn, I used to be the kid that no one cared about. That's why you have to keep screaming till they hear you out. Evilest ways. But have you ever been so hungry it keeps you awake? Mate, now my hunger will leave them amazed. Great, it feels like a long time coming. Bam, since the day I thought of that cunning plan. but I wasn't going nowhere. Running mad. I knew that maybe someday I would understand. Trying to change a 10 to 100 grand. Everyone's the kid that no one cares about. You just gotta keep screaming till they hear you out.
Wow. Just from looking at that highlight video, you can tell that there's a star in the making. But I also want to point out the shades. They kind of remind me of kind of like a Bret Hart type vibe, which I love. I'm telling you, this guy, I'm so glad to get him on the show. No offense, I'm fanboying right now. That's how glad I am to have him on the show. So without further ado, making his mWo debut, hopefully first of many episodes, we can bring him back on. Welcome to the show, the one and the only Starboy, Nano, Lopez.
Hello, Mike. What an introduction. I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh man, I'm very happy for you to be on the show. And as always, any guests we have on the show, I will hype you up with an intro that no other show has probably have given before. But like I said, I've been watching you for the past month without even knowing, okay, this guy's on Instagram and everything. Why haven't I reached out to you before is crazy. But thank you for finally making the time out of your schedule to come on the show.
No, thank you for having me. I mean, it's a pleasure. Like you mentioned before, thanks to Fight TV, because that was a platform that has given us so many options to reach to a wider audience. Like for example, in America. So I'm really happy and excited for being here and yeah, like I've seen some of your work since we got in touch, and you have a really cool program. So I'm really happy to be here, man.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. I tried to put a lot of work into everything and to make sure when people come on, it's not just a podcast where you feel like you're getting interviewed the same questions. It's more like something to have fun doing. It doesn't feel like work, And that's why I want our guests to feel like on Mike World Order. So we're going to go with our usual cookie cutter questions, and then we'll go on to the fun stuff. But for all of our viewers out there who are new to you, who is Starboy Nano Lopez?
Well, I think that you actually touched a very good point at the beginning. So Starboy Nano Lopez is a Spanish wrestler who has made his way through Poland for personal reasons. I just ended up in this beautiful country. So, like you mentioned, Starboy is a hybrid wrestler that is open for new challenges and is here to prove that Spain it's a country that can provide great wrestlers to this beautiful industry, to this beautiful sport, and he's trying to make his way through other countries and trying to entertain as much crowd as possible and make their money worth when they pay a ticket to see me. That's pretty much in a nutshell who Starboy Nano Lopez is. Exotic hint of Spanish wrestling.
So what would you say was what got you started into wanting to be a pro wrestler?
Well, wow, that's, like wrestling has been the most important thing since I remember. I'm 32 years old now, but I started watching wrestling in Spain in 2001. So when I was 11 years old, 11, 12 years old, and wrestling didn't exist in Spain at all. So you couldn't watch it in TV or anything. I was just lucky that I saw it through satellite. And since that moment, since I saw those guys in action in the ring, I said, hey, I want to be that guy. I want to be The Rock. I want to be Stone Cold Steve Austin. I want to be this larger than life character. So obviously I couldn't train in Spain because there was no wrestling whatsoever. So I had to wait until I got 18, 19, and then with thanks to the internet and the social media, things got a bit more accessible for everyone. So then I could start training. But that was my main goal since the first time I've ever watched wrestling in TV.
And it's funny you mentioned that Stone Cold and The Rock, because watching some of your matches, I noticed you finish your opponents off with a version of the Rock Bottom. By any
Right.
chance, would you say you're a big fan of The Rock? Would you say he's like your number
Yeah,
one reason?
absolutely. It is my number one reason because the very first wrestling match I've ever watched in my whole life was the WrestleMania 17 main event. So it was The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin. And although the main event was in Texas and every vast majority of the crowd wanted Stone Cold to win, I couldn't understand that because for me, The Rock was much more cooler. He was the current champion, and he really grabbed my attention, back in 2001. So The Rock was the real reason why, and it was the guy that I was looking to, and I was watching his tribute videos and his matches and everything. So I kind of tried to pay a little bit of tribute with the finisher I've got. Although my finisher is called Last Lane to Spain, but at the end of the day, like you mentioned, it's just a modified rock bottom. And also, in my current gear, I have some strides on my left leg, which are also a tribute to Rocky Maivia. So you can find few references here and there about him because he was really the wrestler who got me into the business. Yeah.
It's funny you mentioned that. So looking at one of your profile photos that we got on you, yeah, I can see a lot of Rocky Maivia. I can see a lot of Bret Hart for some reason.
Yeah, you're right.
That's honestly the two wrestlers that I see the most in terms of your character. But I mostly see more Rock than Bret Hart, but I see a little bit of the Hitman character as well too. But
Absolutely, and the glasses and the jacket and everything. You nailed it basically because those are the two wrestlers. Bret Hart when it comes a bit to the attire, but to the wrestling style, and The Rock when it comes to the showmanship and trying to to get the most out of the crowd that you are working with. So yeah, you nailed it, man. You nailed it.
oh yeah, I make sure to do my research and pinpoint everything, and I can tell like the crowds whenever you wrestle, they are so invested in you, and I like that because nothing says passion as fans feeling that same energy that you bring to the ring when you come out. The moment your entrance music hits, I hear it a completely different reaction compared to the other wrestlers on Underground. So I'm like, okay, he's
Right.
got to be at least, if he's not the ace, they got him prepared to be the ace. But it also mentioned
Yeah,
that
that's
you're
something that I sorry to interrupt you because you really touched
you
on a really good point here because that's something that I get pride on. That's not everyone likes me, although I'm a baby face. Not everybody likes me, obviously, but I take a pride on saying that whether they like me or whether they don't like me, I always create a reaction on the crowd. So that's something that really makes me feel accomplished as a wrestler or realized because I realize that okay, they might like me or they might not like me, but at least I'm making something on them. And when I was watching wrestling and I was on the front row or in the seventh row, I was one of these people who wanted to be wanted a wrestler to make a reaction on me, whether it's negative or positive, but I wanted to make my money worth with saying, hey, I had a lot of fun, booing this guy or cheering this guy. So yeah, I agree with you. I think I'm in the right direction when it comes to the crowd. So yeah, let's keep fingers crossed. So it keeps going that way, you know.
Oh yeah, and it's funny you mentioned that because they always say it's better to get a reaction than no reaction at all. But
Absolutely.
I've always learned from different wrestlers like Chris Jericho and even our own Starbuck from Pro Wrestling Finland. Um, I noticed there's some about working in the European area where it's kind of different because
Yeah.
it's all about reaction in that area compared to the US. The US, it's going to be different. They're going to heckle, they're going to cheer, they're going to boo. But for some reason, when it comes to wrestling in the European areas, they're more, I don't want to say invested, but they give more of a pure reaction compared to the United States and other countries. But
Yeah.
have you ever thought about wanting to work in other countries aside from where you're at?
Yeah, I mean, I was lucky to work in Italy or in Spain. I was supposed to wrestle as well in Germany and the UK, but the pandemic for a lot of people, was devastating, and so was for me in terms of wrestling. But yeah, one of my main reasons is going overseas. Actually, I'm planning to go to WrestleMania the next year in California, so I'm gonna try to take an opportunity over there and just try to get some bookings in US soil, because I always find fascinating the devotion that American people, the American fans have towards pro wrestling. I think you touched a very good point here when you said about the European fans. They have very genuine reactions and appreciation because they don't have the chance to see as many shows as you guys can, right? Probably in the area where you live or somewhere nearby, you can have a wrestling show weekly or monthly or quite often, right? But here in Europe, it wasn't like that. You had to travel a lot of miles, hundreds of miles to attend a wrestling show that was maybe once a year or once each half a year. So when you had that chance, only the true fans, the diehard fans, are gonna go there to the venue to see that. So obviously, when they are so invested into wrestling, they are gonna give everything they got, and you as a performer, you as a wrestler can see that. So yeah, you touch a really good point. In every underground show we had, you can see that they really feel what they are saying. Whether they cheer for you, whether they hate you, they boo for you, it's real. It's genuine. You see them in their eyes.
Oh yeah, and it's funny you mentioned going over for WrestleMania weekend. I mean, I'd say personally, California on WrestleMania weekend, that's one of the smartest areas you can go to because I've always learned whenever there's WrestleMania weekend, not everyone can afford going to WrestleMania. That's when really all the independent shows get
Right,
all
are
of their.
happening.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, there's at least 20 different shows that they'll do in one area. So
Right.
most definitely, hopefully
And
we get.
now knowing who my favorite wrestler of all time is, you might know why I want to go to WrestleMania.
Oh yeah, because it's in Hollywood, and the rumors speculating about Rock being there. Yeah, I
Right.
could definitely see that, and it's funny because you being from Spain and being a luchador, have you ever
Yeah.
thought about wanting to cross over into doing lucha libre in Mexico?
You know what? I would love to, but even though the highlight video that you presented at the beginning showed me doing a couple of high flying stuff, I don't. I'll be honest with you. I'm afraid of heights. Like I don't mind. I mean, I can take a hurricane from the top rope. That's okay. I can do it, but I'm afraid. So I enjoy watching lucha libre so much, definitely, and yeah, I mean the fact that the language, it's gonna be the same, but if we speak Spanish and so on, it's gonna make a lot of things in common. But I never thought about Mexico, America, and I mean US was always my priority when we talk about wrestling overseas, because yeah, like I say, the lucha libre is so fast paced and has so many high flying maneuvers that I don't know if I am that good to performing a lucha libre show, but probably yeah, that's something to consider. Absolutely, absolutely.
I mean, I think so for the simple fact that I noticed lucha libre, despite its fast paced style, it's also very character oriented. And you
Oh yeah,
being the Starboy character, I can see that being helping you get over as well too in Mexico.
Makes
And
sense.
I mean, I see a lot of guys who do wrestle in Mexico that don't do the crazy high spots and all that, and they still make it. Guys like Roosh, he's a heavyweight
Yes.
that doesn't do a fast paced style, but he's more high impact, which is
Right.
good. And I can also see why, because of being afraid of that style or scared of doing that style, I can see
Yeah,
why
I'm
you would
scared of
lean
that.
more towards, um, the American style and also the European style of where you at. Because, to me, when I think of European and British wrestling, I don't think of high spots. I think of catch as
Right.
catch can and more of the hard hitting style and more, learning about grappling. And to me,
Yeah.
being in the location that you're in a perfect area of learning the fundamentals of being more of a grounded wrestler and learning more, the technicalities. Thus, you being the hybrid wrestler that you are, it goes hand in hand.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And like if you stop for a moment and think about it, like right now my home promotion is Primetime Wrestling, but Primetime Wrestling didn't exist a year ago. You know, its life is less than a year. So and throughout this period of time, we were lucky to have coaches like Santino Marella or Chris Masters or Nick Aldis or like a lot of them. So and everyone had a different style, right? Like obviously Santino, as a legit fighter as he is in real life, his gimmick in WWE has nothing to do with the masterpiece that Chris Master was. So the way they will explain you things is totally different. So if you have a chance to pick up their brain from here and there, you can build your own craft. And like you say, in Europe, it's more about ground and pound. It's more about catch as catch can, but hard hitting style. So that's why I think that being a hybrid wrestler may help you to work with basically any opponent in the world, regardless of their height and weight. And that's what I'm aspiring to. I'm aspiring to be a kind of, I don't know, Dean Malenko or Chris Jericho. I'm 5'10". I'm not the tallest man in the world, so I need to adapt to the style, to the size of my opponent. So I'm trying to pursue that and to get to that level.
Oh wow, Dean Malenko, and that's one thing about Dean Malenko. He the Iceman character he had.
Right.
I like that. But the one thing I also notice about your wrestling style too, um, I do see a lot of submission. I do see a lot of grappling, but I also notice that everything you do has like kind of like a finesse to it. Even when you
Mm.
do something simple like an arm drag, when I was watching your match with Matt Seidel, which we'll get to later on,
Okay.
um, and maybe it's just me, your arm drags, they kind of reminded me of old school Gerald Briscoe, Ricky Steamboat
Yeah.
style, where
Well, I mean, probably not that good level like Ricky Steamboat. He was the master of it. But yeah, like a bit of old school. Absolutely.
yeah, I
I
still see that
and I,
same finesse though.
yeah, and you know what? Although I'm obviously from the new generation and stuff, I really consider and I really take a lot of respect for the old school wrestling, and I try to apply it in the psychology in the ring, or I try to keep things simple. Like I love to see high spots. I'm a fan of them, of course, but I don't like to see. I don't want to be myself on a spot fest, or I don't want to kick out after a super kick or a tombstone pile driver. I'm this kind of old school guy that wants the finishers to be protected, but also applies the moves in a old school way. So yeah, I don't know if other people see it the same way as you did, but I have to tell you that you're right. Like I try to do that on an old school way sometimes.
Well, yeah, because I'm all about psychology still in wrestling, and me being
Yeah,
34, I grew up watching the old school as well too. And don't get
right,
me wrong, as much as I like the high flying spots and all that, but to me, it's kind of insulting the old school when you have a match where you're seeing like 30 suicide dives and 20 Canadian
right.
destroyers and 10 super kicks. and they're still
Yeah, because
kicking out. And
think about it, the more you do, the less it will mean. So if you make 20 super kicks, it means that your super kicks mean nothing, because if the guy
exactly,
is able to kick out after 20 super kicks, although in the past when Shawn Michaels hit his switching music, you know that the match is over, right?
exactly,
Or the Undertaker hits the Thompson pile driver, that's over. That's why it's a finisher, right? Because it finishes the match. And now you see guys, and I respect everything, of course, but you see guys, doing a 450 splash in the first minute of the match, and it kind of, it's like it makes no sense, not to me at least.
yeah. Because I like seeing it as a finisher, or even if it's
Right.
like a desperation move mid match, I could see that. But I mean,
Absolutely.
the one thing that would always kind of, I wouldn't want to say bother me, but it just kind of gives you that look like really is when you'll see a match where they're doing all of these spots and it's like
Right.
flip floppity fly, but then they'll win the match with a basic move. And
Yeah.
you're like,
Yeah.
I just seen you do a match of 20 different finishers and you win the match with just like a regular small package hold. Like, no, go home.
Exactly. Doesn't make sense. Like psychology is from the psychology standpoint, it doesn't make sense. But even if for a 15-year-old kid or a 9-year-old kid who can be watching the match, he's gonna not understand what's going on because it's like this guy did all that crazy shit, but that was not enough to kill or to beat this guy. But he then did I don't know, a fisherman suplex, and he got a victory. So why he didn't do the fisherman suplex in the first stance instead of going through all that crazy shit? So yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, I totally agree with that.
Oh
Absolutely.
yeah, and I'm all about suplexes with bridges, like a fisherman suplex or a German suplex, or even a dragon suplex, like something like that.
Right.
It's very uncanny the psychology, and I don't know, maybe that's just my age talking. Most people can agree, disagree, but I like seeing psychology in
Right.
wrestling.
I think it also has to do with the fact that now the wrestling has evolved, and what worked 25 years ago doesn't necessarily work now, and people are willing to see more crazy maneuvers and more risky stuff. But we are reaching a point that fans are also getting used to the very, very, very risky things. So what are you going to give them the next day if you go through I don't know, a table with flames and thumbtacks, and they are like, oh, okay, so what are you going to do next? Are you going to go to the venue with I don't know, with a machine gun to impress them? Because you don't have much things left in your repertoire.
Exactly. It's true though, and not just that. I feel like these days wrestlers are giving too much to wrestling fans. To
Right,
where
right,
all it's
absolutely.
gonna do is just add them, expect them to up the ante more every match, and and there's
Yeah.
no build up to it.
Exactly. Like I understand a match that ends a rivalry in which, yeah, you will have a stipulation and things will go above and beyond of what you normally see because it's the end of a rivalry that has been for months or weeks. So it's like a pinnacle of that. But to do that in a random singles match in the opener match of a show that had no build up whatsoever, and to go through to hell and high water, I mean, it doesn't make sense to me, right? And also, you see a lot of wrestling matches right now that the first match or the second match of the show are already going for 25 minutes and doing crazy stuff. So then the next match is on the card. They have it really hard to overcome that expectation because the bar has been set very high at the very beginning of the show. And wrestlers sometimes they don't remember about how the wrestling show should go that with those peaks and valleys to not drain the audience on the second match. But yeah, that's
Exactly. That
old
is,
school me.
but that's so true. Like even recently with the AEW Forbidden Door pay per view, I was watching
Right.
that, and by the time I was halfway into watching the show, I
You
was
were
already
tired.
exhausted.
Absolutely. Yeah, me too. Like, oh my God, like you are drained because they give you so much at the beginning that when comes the time for the main event, those main eventers have it really hard to keep you engaged because you are a human and you have been through that for 3 hours, so you are tired, you know.
Exactly. And I've always learned from watching promotions like Ultimo Dragon's Toryumon
Oh yeah,
Japan promotion. I've always learned through his booking system, the opening, you always want to have a strong opening with like either a
yeah,
multi-man tag, and then
yeah.
build it up to where, you build it up to the peak at the middle of the show, then you go back down again, and then you go right back up for the main event. That way
Right,
it
right,
keeps the
right, right.
fans, engaged.
Exactly, exactly. And you know, a lot of times fans or even wrestlers, we don't really we don't really pay attention to those small details, like how is it to put a card for the show. But you know, the good bookers, the good promoters, they have designed the card for the show in a way that will, like you said, they will have peaks and valleys, so that the audience are all the time engaged, and they are not drained out or exhausted through midway of this card, you know.
Exactly. And it's funny you also mentioned going back to like primetime wrestling being not
Mhm.
even a year old. I mean, just from watching
Right.
you guys' shows, y'all got a nice good crowd out there though.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, wow, the amount of money and sponsors and work that the promoters have put behind that to make it work, it's tremendous, you know. But Poland Poland is a country that has always been very interested about fighting sports, you know, whether it's boxing or MMA. You can see that some of the top stars in MMA were even Polish, or you know, even wrestling, you know, like with
Mhm.
Killer Kowalski and everything, right? So, you know, Poland never had that opportunity to see a wrestling show, a mainstream wrestling show, sort of speak, with the production that is behind, and the lights and the pyro and the music. You know, we were used in Poland to see decent shows, but indie shows with 300 people or 200 people on the crowd. And now we have the show in where I had a match with Saidal. We reached more than 1,000 people, which is like, wow, you know, for a country like Poland that is not a wrestling country, right? Not yet, but starts to be, because they see that they go to the show and they have fun, even if they don't understand very good how pro wrestling works. They had a great time, you know, booing for the bad guys and cheering for the good guys, or booing for the booing for the good guys and cheering for the bad guys, because they have a great time, you know. So our first show was good. Our second show was even better, and you know, every consecutive show is getting better in terms of wrestling quality, but also in terms of the crowd, of engagement, of merchandise sale, of social media engagement and posts and all that stuff. So I hope we are in the right direction.
Oh, I definitely think so because just from watching a few episodes of you guys' show, I feel like each episode you've been making history each one.
Yeah,
Because, like you said, I've never heard of any wrestling promotion in Poland. I think this is like the first one for me. I
yeah,
tried.
for you and for the vast majority of people.
Oh
And
yeah,
like you mentioned at the beginning of your show, it's also thanks to Fight, you know, that has given us a platform, right, to reach you. Otherwise, you know, unless are really into wrestling and you happen to go across a Matt Sydal post saying that he will perform in Poland, and then you do your own research, it's going to be hard for a promotion like us to reach people overseas.
right. And because of that, guys like me who are like super wrestling fans, not just
Right.
of one promotion, I like watching everything and anything. Like I could watch a show that's in South America or Japan, and
That's
you'll
awesome.
still get the same excitement out of me. And for those
Mhm.
out there listening, fans, please follow Primetime Wrestling on Instagram and all over
Oh yeah.
social medias. And they're also on Fight TV. For only $4.99 a month, you can get them on the Fight Plus app. Well worth every penny. So worth it.
Right. And
Because
we have like 4 pay-per-views, sort of speak, per year, and we have our monthly undergrounds, which is gonna be like it's our base product. Let's say the underground series. Those are our shows like Raw or SmackDown, right? So those are our shows where the rivalries are born, and where everything it's built up. And then we have our big pay-per-views, which are like 4 per year, sorry. And then you can see a lot of excitement and a lot of wrestling stars like Joe Hendry or Marty Scurll or whoever you can imagine can come to PTW at any time. So it's worth a check.
Wow, and those are some known names like Joe Hendry. I remember seeing from Ring of Honor and
Ring of Honor, yeah.
Oh yeah, interesting theme song, but
yeah, but it's very creative. I mean,
yeah,
like
very creative.
You
like,
can tell how much the guy is invested into wrestling. To have every time I sing a different theme song.
Now
a different entrance. Yeah.
There was one question that I was curious to wanting to ask too, from watching you guys' shows and based on the logo. Okay, you gotta explain to me what's with the penguin.
It's a very simple answer actually, but it's a good question. So Kingwing is our official sponsor, right? And Kingwing is a platform where you can buy video games or keys for video games to cash in Steam or in other platforms. So it's basically a video game provider, and they are our biggest sponsor, and their logo is a penguin. That's why for every big show or for every underground show, because they are our biggest sponsor, and they are even part of our name, Kingwing Primetime Wrestling. So we are adding the penguin to the logo, which I think it's a really cool idea, because with the penguin you can play a lot. So in our first show, it was more like it was called Revolution Show. So with a lot of colorful stuff. So the penguin was painted with different colors. For our second big show, it was more like a cyberpunk. So we had this penguin, dress with the cyberpunk, memorabilia and the special glasses and so on. So it's really funny and people love it. So yeah, that's the reason why.
Yeah, because that always sparked my curiosity. I was like, what's with the penguin? Like, is that their mascot or is that? I wasn't sure. But now it makes sense because pretty much like other promotions like New Japan, they're run by Bushiroad, which is like a card company, and then like Pro Wrestling Noah, they're run by Cyberfight, which is basically like a media sports company. So that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. But it's good to have that big of a sponsor on there. So I can definitely relate.
Sponsors today are everything, Mike. Today, if especially in a place like here, if you don't have some kind of somebody who pushes you a little bit in terms of money at the beginning, it's really hard to have a big venue and have all this production behind. So sponsors right now are a must in this business if you are starting out. So yeah, we are very happy for that.
Oh yeah, like most definitely. And because of that, what keeps it going. It definitely keeps it going. So my next topic I want to talk about, which is probably your biggest match to date, at least to me, is the match you had with Matt Sydal. But before we get to it, we're going to take a quick intermission so our fans can catch up, because I know most of them come in right early, mid-episode. So even though it was played right before we started the show, we're going to go ahead and play it a second time. It's basically the hype-up video for your match that you had with Matt Sydal. And then after we play that, we're going to go ahead and go into the play-by-play of that match alone. Sounds like a plan?
Absolutely.
All righty, let's go ahead and play the clip.
Soy Starboy Nano Lopez. Vengo de España, pero Polonia es mi segundo hogar. Y estoy muy feliz de ser parte de Kingwing PTW y tener la oportunidad de trabajar con el tremendo talento que hay aquí. Aunque comencé a luchar bastante tarde en mi vida, el wrestling ha sido parte de mi vida. Bueno, ha sido mi vida durante más de 20 años. He tenido la suerte de poder presenciar muchos grandes en acción mientras viajaba para adquirir experiencia. Muchos lugares mágicos, muchos recuerdos hermosos. Pero tío, debo decirlo, Kingwing PTW tiene algo especial, algo único aquí. Gané el Battle Royale en el show Revolution y eso me dio la oportunidad de estar en el evento principal contra Nitro en el show Underground. momentos importantes en mi carrera, 2 victorias muy importantes. Pero ahora la historia es completamente diferente. Matt Seidel es una leyenda. Es un talento de clase mundial y uno de mis ídolos personales. Subirse al ring con él es más que un sueño hecho realidad. Será un honor y un privilegio darle la bienvenida a Polonia. Lo daré absolutamente todo. Y una cosa os puedo prometer. Va a ser genial para él, para mí y para vosotros, los fans.
Man, I love that hype up from it.
Yeah. I remember being in gorilla position, and this video was being played on the whole venue, right? And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening, you know?
Oh yeah. So tell us about the backstory behind leading to, well, pretty much the backstory, then the actual match, and then post-match with Matt Seidel. How were you feeling, and what were the events that were leading to it when they said, hey, we want you to go against Matt Seidel?
Yeah, so, well, first of all, let me tell you that I have been always a huge Ring of Honor fan back when Seidel was there, you know, in the times where Delirious, Austin Aries, Christopher Daniels, you know, Brian Danielson, Nigel McGuinness, all those guys were there. I was a huge fan. And one of my favorite wrestlers was Matt Seidel. So now, the promoter once comes to me and say, hey, you know, you are having great reactions. We love your work. You have been one of the most stable characters here in the company since we started. And, you know, we want to reward you. You know, we have few names in our mind that can make it to Poland and that, you know, they are going to help the company. They're going to help the promotion, but they are going to help you as well. And, you know, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? They gave me like 2-3 top names, right? But one of them was Matt. And when they said Matt, I said, hey, you know, I don't want to, you know, tell you that this is the guy that you should bring. But if you can make it, you know, I'm going to be forever grateful because honestly and genuinely, he's one of my idols in wrestling. And if I can share the ring with him, you know, that would be the pinnacle of my career. That's for sure. Because he's an idol. He's one of my wrestling idols. And, you know, I've been following all his wrestling career, you know, since Pro Wrestling Guerrilla and Ring of Honor, when he was in WWE, but then when he left and he was in Impact Wrestling, his matches in Japan, you know, and AEW. I was one of the most upset people in the world when he, you know, slided on the top rope in his debut and watched the shooting star press because I genuinely like the guy. And when they told me that, I was like, hey, I want, if it's possible, that would be a dream come true. So they did, you know, and they announced me for the match. And well, I couldn't believe it, you know, like I remember I was in Spain for holidays when they announced it because it was Christmas. And, you know, immediately after they announced it officially in the social media, I started to get a lot of messages, a lot of text messages, a lot of messages in social media, like, dude, what the hell, you know, like, is it that the guy that you were watching the matches when we were young? You know, it's like, yeah, it's him, you know, like, so I couldn't believe that. And then, you know, I exchanged a couple of messages with him by Instagram. And I have to tell you one thing, you know, he has been the most approachable, the most humble, and the most down-to-earth wrestler, top wrestler that I ever met in my whole life. You know, like the day he came, I don't know if you had a chance to see that, Mike, but the day before our pay-per-view shows, we always do something called a contract signing ceremony, where we are going to meet on the ring and, you know, we are going to face each other and just sign a contract to make the match official and so on. So when I first saw him, I was trying to keep it professional, you know, because at the end of the day, he's a wrestler and I'm a wrestler and, you know, we are just going to work together. But inside myself, I was being a 12-year-old fanboy trying to say, hey, can we get a picture or something? But yeah, like he was super cool. We talk about the match and he made it so simple. I can tell you, Mike, that that was the easiest match in my wrestling career, without any doubt. The match with Saidal was the easiest match I've ever had, because when you work with such a world class wrestler, they made it so easy for you that it's almost impossible to screw it up. You know what I mean? Because they know exactly. They live inside the square circle, so they are on their nature there. This is what gives them life. So to share the ring with him was easy, but at the same time it was a very positive stress, saying I'm about to fulfill one of my childhood dreams, and I'm just minutes away from doing it, and I don't know what to feel. And in the ring, during the match, everything happened so fast. Like I said, he helped me a lot, and everything was so smooth. The crowd was definitely like 90% with him and 10% with me, obviously. Uh, and after the match, we were sharing the locker room. We were talking. He was really happy with what we delivered, and he said that he wants to come back so much. He had to literally finish the match, have a shower, and head to the airport because he had to come back to America because he had to have some tapings for AEW. So we couldn't spend much of a time together, but he's looking forward to come back, have some maybe wrestling seminar with us or anything like that, and definitely spend more time here because he liked what he saw, and the atmosphere was great. Everyone was so happy to have him around, and after the match, I got a lot of messages. I got a lot of calls from friends, from people watching me in Spain, saying, "Dude, we can't believe that you just were in the ring with Evan Bourne," because a lot of people still call him Evan Bourne because obviously they watch WWE, and it changed my career in the sense that after having a match with Saidal, that's something that you can put in your CV, and that's something that promoters or other workers around the world will probably take into consideration whether if they decide whether to book you or not, or to give you an opportunity or not, because well, you have a good reference behind, right? You had a match with a former WWE, TNA, Ring of Honor, world class Matt fucking Seidel. So yeah.
So my next question that I would like to ask about that is, since that match, would you say that you evolved into I'd say another, trying to think of the best
Level.
I could say. I know inside you were fanboying as like the child in you as you were wrestling was like, oh my gosh. But would you say since that match, would you say there's like a different aura about you when you wrestle since then?
Yes.
Would it add like
Yeah.
another level of confidence to it?
200%. 200%. Before that match, my confidence was okay. I know what I'm doing and I feel pretty good at it. But after having a match with a person of that caliber, your confidence grows exponentially. And I think for everyone who had a match, who was in my situation before, they can confirm that, after that match, you go to sleep as a different wrestler than when you woke up that morning. Because there are a lot of factors that makes your confidence grow. But the most important one is to see that the guys you are seeing on TV and that now you are sharing the ring with, you are actually to not maybe be at the same level because obviously they are better than you, but you can deliver. If you keep training and if you keep picking up the brain of the guys who were before you and who know how the wrestling business works, you can go to the next level. And that's the day I went to sleep after my match with Saidal, my confidence was over the top. Consider to how my confidence was at the beginning of that very day, where I was like, oh my God, I hope I will not screw up. I hope I will not disappoint him. I hope I will not disappoint the fans. I hope I topped the expectations that the promoter has deposited on me. There were a lot of factors. So you have that pressure. after the match, after hearing Saidal's feedback, after hearing the other guys in the locker room feedback, you're the promoter, the crowd, it's impossible to not be hyped up and to not have a bigger level of confidence. So yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Oh yeah, I can imagine. And since that's one dream match that's pretty much happened, who would you say is next on your list of dream matches that you want to have?
Uh, does it count those that are possible to happen, or basically any kind of dream match that I would have in my mind?
Doesn't matter. A dream match is a dream match.
Yeah, well, dream match, it's a dream match. Dream match would be The Rock versus Starboy, anytime, any place. That would be obviously my dream match, right? Because that's the person thanks to who I am, a wrestler right now. But more doable, although very hard and very difficult to achieve, but more doable. One of my biggest idols was also the Brian Danielson. Brian Danielson was one of the guys that I was looking up to when I was watching Ring of Honor. So Brian Danielson and CM Punk, those are the two guys that always got me in front of the computer or the TV, and I was buying the T-shirts and doing their poses and everything when I was younger. So yeah, those two would be like wow.
Wow, I could definitely see you and Brian Danielson go at it. I can
Yeah,
see
I
how
would love to.
definitely that I could see happening because
Yeah,
at one point Danielson was like everywhere. He was in Europe, he was
yeah,
in Italy, he was in Australia, like he was everywhere wrestling and doing seminars. So
right.
I hope once again he'll do that same thing once he returns from his injury that he has going on. But
Yeah,
I could definitely see that happening. Hopefully, I would love this
thank
to
you.
see that on an episode of PTW.
Oh
So
yeah.
now that we got all that out of the way, this is a little segment that we do called Dude Talk, where
Okay.
basically 5 random questions that we ask our guests, non-wrestling related. This is the part where we make it fun to where once again it doesn't feel like your typical choppy wrestling podcast. You know,
Right.
this is where, it's a way of wrestlers to interact with the fans as well. So,
Sounds good.
first random question. Favorite arena that you would like to perform in?
Favorite arena. The I don't know if it no longer exists, to be honest, but the Astrodome, I think, in Houston, Texas,
Still there.
is still there. Yeah. Okay. So the Astrodome, for a simple reason, the very first match I've ever watched was in that arena. So I would love to perform there. Obviously, that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Favorite musician?
Favorite musician. Well, my favorite musician is Spanish, and his name is Leiva. So not many of your listeners, or our listeners here, are gonna know who he is. But more international, I always loved. If it's a single one, I always loved Phil Collins. I'm a kind
Phil,
of old school guy.
Phil Collins.
Yeah.
Okay. I wouldn't have guessed that, Phil Collins.
Yeah. There you go.
I would have guessed you were more of a
Some rapper or something.
no, I would have guessed more like techno rap.
Yeah.
Which is funny because I actually know who Leva is because the area that I live in Virginia, it's very Hispanic oriented.
Okay.
So I can hear anything from that to one night I could be hearing in my neighborhood Bad Bunny, and
Oh.
some nights I
Yeah.
can hear in my area some of the couples that are like doing something special. I could hear Vicente Fernandez, and that's old school, right? You can't get any old school
There
than
you go.
that.
There you go. Absolutely.
Like
Absolutely.
literally. I mean, like last night, one of our neighbors had Selena playing because they had like a little party going on. And
Yeah, there you go.
literally the
There
guy
you go.
passed
No,
me by.
I'm more into pop or rock in the rock 80s, 90s, pop rock. Of course I like rap as well. I mean, I kind of like of all kind of music, to be honest. But if I have to pick one, and yeah, I would pick that one.
I mean, you're a hybrid wrestler with hybrid taste in music, you know. All right, number 3, most embarrassing moment
Ever?
ever.
Okay, so I once was going with my sister and all her classroom. They were about to go to the airport to go, I don't know, Ireland or somewhere. I don't remember. Anyway, we were in a city in the seaside, and there was like literally over 200 people or more, and I was there, and suddenly something fell over my shoulder, something, something wet, something that smelled horrible, like rotten fish, and actually a seagull just pooped over me. That's okay. I mean, that's okay. But I didn't have any other T-shirt or anything. And man, I have to tell you, it smelled horrible. Even some girls next to me wanted to vomit because the smell was horrible. Regardless, so my sister goes on the trip with all those guys, and then the guys started to make fun of, like, "Hey, do you remember when we were waiting for the bus about a guy who got pooped by a seagull?" And my sister was like, "Yeah, it was my brother." Oh my god, I can't believe. So that was definitely one of the most embarrassing moments of my life. I don't know if the most, but that's the one that always comes back to my mind from time to time.
Which is it's funny because
The smell was like, oh my
yes,
god, like,
I had to get my car rinsed down the other day because me and a coworker went out to lunch, and literally I was in the middle of talking, and I remember the moment I got out of my car and closed the door, I said something, and all I saw was this giant gloop pow,
oh,
right at least 3 inches away from where I was standing, hit my
there
car,
you
and I'm
go.
like,
You were a lucky one. I was not that lucky.
I just got my car washed.
Yeah, but so all my T-shirt and arm was dirty. Okay, I cleaned my arm and everything, but the T-shirt I couldn't clean. And then I had to drive, like, I don't know, 200 miles back home. So I had to drive without a T-shirt because, I was driving with my parents and they couldn't stand the smell. So, like, oh my God. It was horrible, really.
I would have just went in character and put the shades on and just been
Right.
I would have just done that. I would have been in character.
Starboy didn't exist back then.
So,
yeah.
number 4, favorite dish that you love to eat.
Oh man, that's a really hard one. I love Italian cuisine. So whether it's lasagna or pizza or cannelloni, whatever has pasta, it's my favorite food. It's really my favorite. And I shouldn't say that. I'm from Spain. So, if you're from Spain, you cannot say that you like Italian food, but you should like more Spanish food. But no, man, I'm sorry. I'd go with Italian. So pizza. Yeah, I would say pizza.
Hey, man, look, you're a hybrid guy. You got hybrid tastes. You can't just stick
Yeah,
with
but
just one. You got you like
man.
them all.
Yeah. But American food is delicious for me as well. So,
Oh man, that's
yeah,
crazy.
I will go for pizza.
Pizza. I mean, you can't go wrong with pizza. But there's just something about authentic Italian pizza. It just hit right, So I definitely agree with you. All right, last question. Dream location as a vacation. Not work, not wrestling, not competing. If you had one place right now where at the snap of a finger, they said, hey, you're going on vacation there, what would it be?
You know what? I would surprise you with this one. I would say United States.
Where?
As a whole.
Where again?
To United States.
Oh, well, no, that's not a bad thing.
As a whole, I always dream, and I spoke about that with my girlfriend a lot of times. I always dream about going from East Coast to West Coast of America, like take a month or more, and just go through as many states as possible, seeing as many things as possible, starting from the East Coast, ending up in the West Coast. From Atlantic Ocean to Pacific. That's my dream trip to do.
And it's funny you mentioned that. I'm actual friends with independent wrestler from New Jersey, Samson Khan. He literally like stopped everything he did, bought an RV, sold his house and bought an RV, and that's pretty much what he's been doing. He's been
Right.
literally been traveling all around the U.S. in numerous parts. He's literally been to almost every state.
And probably for you, since you are American, you kind of feel it obviously more like, I wouldn't say doable, but more, easy to achieve or to do because, well, you are already there and you have your American culture within yourself, right? But for someone from Europe, like me, we have that, vision of America, like, to go there where that movie was filmed, to go here where this rock artist was born, to go
Oh yeah,
here where this movie was recorded. Like all those things that we have seen since we were born in the pop culture, to be able to go there and witness them with our own eyes is something that really amazes us. So yeah.
oh yeah, I can definitely see that. And being someone who lives near Washington D.C., what I like about it the most, it's so diverse to where many people like to say, I want to travel to this country and travel to that. I don't have to. I just have to go in certain areas around DC. Like if I want Italian, I can just go to this section. If I want
Right.
Spanish, I can go to this section. I mean, it's so
Absolutely.
crazy. Like even with Asian cuisines and all that. That's one thing I like about that area of Northern Virginia and Washington D.C. How it connects. It's
Hmm.
you can literally be in another country within a couple of miles based
Yeah.
on its like culture and all that. So I'm like,
And
I'm good. I don't need a passport.
right. I mean, and here in Europe, all the countries are very close to each other, and it's quite easy. We have a lot of low cost airlines that can put you in another country in few minutes or hours at a very affordable price. So, basically everyone here I know has been in a lot of countries within Europe. But when it goes to overseas or to some exotic destination, you know, it's much more harder to achieve money wise and time
Oh
wise
yeah,
as well.
it
So
is.
that's why I mentioned that apart from the money, which is obviously super important, I would need at least 1 month off just to do that, because I really want to take the most out of it. And I hope I'm going to do it anytime. But yeah, that's my dream.
Oh yeah, and look, you're still young. Go
Yeah.
for it, man. Go for it.
Yeah. You only live once, right? That's what the
Exactly.
youngest say.
YOLO.
YOLO.
Well, Starboy, we appreciate having you on. By any chance, could we bring you back on for future episodes?
Dude, you know what? It was a pleasure to be here. You just need to ping me in at least a day before so I can, work on my schedule. But
Oh,
I will
no
be I will
problem.
be super happy to be here, whenever you want to invite me again, feel free. I had a great time and I would love to repeat.
Oh yeah, I mean, I try to at least do it within 2 weeks in advance to bring a
That's
guest
good.
on because the whole point of me doing MWO Super Saturdays, I want that international flair of wrestlers because it as easy as it is to bring on American wrestlers, I want like people from different countries. So far I've had people from Ireland, from Finland, from Canada. This you're pretty much my first Spaniard that's living in Poland. So
Right.
it's a first every episode. So if anything, I heavily appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to come on the show, and I would love to have you come back. And for our fans out there who are pretty much going to end up following you a whole lot after they see this episode, how would they reach you on social media?
I mean, the easiest, the fastest, and the most convenient way it's to reach me out by at Instagram at Starboy Nano Lopez. I'm pretty active over there, so that's the best way. But obviously, if you have any question or anything, I also have my email there, nanolopezpw@gmail.com. So those are the two sources where you can ping me in. And I really like so when I was a fan, I always liked to write to a wrestler for whatever reason, for like, just say happy birthday, and that this wrestler answered me back. It was like, oh my God, this guy just made my day or just made my week. So I make sure that if someone writes me, I always take the time to answer back or to thanks for their support or help them with whatever question they might have. So feel free to reach me out. If I will make sure that I will answer you at the fastest possible time.
Oh yeah, and you're pretty quick with the replies. So I've always appreciate that. And like I said, I thank you for coming on to the show, and I continue to look forward to watching you on Underground. Matter of fact, when is the next episode of Underground?
So we are gonna have a next show this July 31st. It's gonna be in Krakow for the first time ever, so in a different city in Poland this time. We are going to be part of a Japanese convention. So we expect hundreds, if not thousands of people watching our show. And I'm one of the few confirmed matches already. I'm going on a submission match against Sinister, who is making Starboy's life miserable pretty much over the past couple of months, I would say. So if you don't want to miss me making Sinister tapping out, July 31st.
Alrighty, y'all heard it, folks. July 31st, tune in so you can see the one and only Starboy Nano Lopez. And as always, we appreciate you coming on the show. This episode will be on Spotify, Apple, and all other major podcasting platforms. Fans, you can still see the live video on demand on my Twitch page. Mr. Lopez, we appreciate you. And like I said, I'll keep in contact with you just to bring you back on. Even if you got shows that you want to promote, matches, reach out to me. I will make sure that I'll post a segment on it on the show.
This is just the beginning. Like I told you, we are just 1 year old. This is only going to get better and more interesting and more exciting for all the fans all over the world. At the end of the day, the wrestling community, we should stick together and we should support each other instead of fighting or arguing for stupid little things that no one cares about, basically, of what we think. So stay together. And, if I can help your program, if I can help anyone out there, that's one of my missions, to make this business as good as it is and make it even better. So thank you so much, Mike, for having me. I was really happy to be here, and it was a pleasure. I had lots of fun. And it was good to remember it was good to remember when the seagull pooped on my shoulder. That's for sure.
I mean, it's like I say, I tried to build the foundation with podcasting and pro wrestling. Even though I'm a small voice, I still want to, let my small voice be heard for everyone. And even if you got talent out there who, if they want to get a chance, I would love to have them on the show too, just as much as I would love to have you come back as well too. Help build that relationship. And international bookers out there, give him a holler, give him a chance. He's good. I've seen his matches. You saw his match with Matt Seidel. That tells you right there that's validation. So as always,
I will make the money worth for the people who come to the show. That's for sure. One way.
Exactly. Starboy es mucho dinero.
Oh, there you go. Muchas gracias, amigo.
No problem. So hopefully we'll see you next time, sir. You take care.
Thank you. You same.
Alrighty, and this concludes today's mWo Super Saturday. Once again, we appreciate having Mr. Lopez on the show. Great guy, hilarious, and he also gave me a reminder to always look around whenever there's birds and seagulls. Oh, my goodness. Well, this concludes today's episode. I'm Mike Thunder. Next week starts the mWo Great American Bash series for the month of July. And what a great way to kick it off. Tuesday night, we will have, from the owner of Built-In Besties, and one of the top real estate in DC. Our mWo ambassador for this month, Miss Christina Sison. She'll be the one that will be doing the very first show and the very last show in July. And we have very other guests that month because the theme is Women of Power, because we want to make sure their voices are heard too. I'm Mike Thunder. Y'all know what time it is. Hope y'all enjoy the rest of your day. And as always, if you don't remember anything that I say on my show, always remember this: enjoy yourself.